G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen, welcome back to another video. So we're actually before you go anywhere, the race in the thumbnail will be coming up. I'm just introducing with another couple of races I had around here. Now the video is only 25 minutes long, so I can assure you I'm not showing the full length of the two races here. So if you're here for Bathurst, you can skip ahead, but don't worry, I won't be here for long. But I just thought I'd show you another couple of races I had in the rain, mainly highlighting the importance of actually selecting the best car for it. So usually, or not so much anymore, but what I used to do is just pick whatever car I wanted and just raced with it and just did the best that I could with it. But after this experience, I kind of started to think, you know, maybe choosing the right car, you know, choosing the car that dominates the leaderboards, maybe that is more important than I am previously thinking. So we'll have another look at a Subaru race. So there was a previous video that was one race in full length. This is edited down slightly, but it was, I don't know, the race directly after the one you saw last time anyway. But we'll head into turn one in the rain. As you know, this can get quite hairy. So McLaren's very slow, very early on the brakes. Porsche is sliding wide into the wall, grinds off the wall. McLaren slots in ahead, and then McLaren loses it, and then Porsche goes into the back of the McLaren, and I go into the back of the Porsche, and there's a penalty for the McLaren up ahead. So he'll serve that at the end of this lap, but unfortunately, because I went into the back of that Porsche, I lost all of my speed and have been overtaken by second, third, and fourth. So I'm down in fifth from third? Where third did I start? Did I? Or yeah, something like that. Not ideal is the short way of saying it, but we'll see what happens through the chicane here. Honda's very slow through here and actually turns in, actually gets a massive bit of snap oversteer through the direction change there. Penalties behind, Penalty City behind there, Penalty CBD behind me, so we probably won't have to worry about an assault from behind. Honda smashes into the wall, gets a 5-second penalty. I go up the gap there. Nice little move there around the outside of turn 9 here. Not quite able to get that move to work as the Honda was able to get onto the power slightly earlier than me. Of course, I'm not privy to whether he was using traction control like me here, but we'll see how he goes. So penalty for the Honda there. It's been a fairly eventful first lap. Third place has also got a penalty, and we know that McLaren up ahead also had a penalty from the start of the lap, so there's going to be 3 lots of penalty servings here. So there goes the Honda, 2 cars up ahead, there goes the McLaren, and then we've got a Citroen that had a penalty earlier and just smashes into the side there. You saw how awkward it got up ahead, smashes into the side of the Honda and waits up for him. And that was a bit of a lucky break for me, because that McLaren went past and actually gets a little bit of snap oversteer there going through the kink, so that slows his speed down onto the straight, which allows me to stick quite close to him in slipstream. So the Subaru not that great in a straight line, so being able to have that speed of the McLaren, or the slipstream of the McLaren down the straight rather, is a good advantage to me. And you see the gap, just have a look at the gaps. McLaren is actually remaining fairly stable to the McLaren up ahead. The guy behind is gaining, so he would have a car that's better in a straight line. He also has the advantage of my slipstream there. So hopefully we don't have a massive accident up into turn 1, but there's actually fairly large gaps in between us, so we should be okay. On the brakes, just after the 150 metre ball, closing up on the McLaren on the brakes once again. Like last video, confident on the brakes. McLaren just snaps wide a little bit. I get a little bit of the same, but I'm saved by traction control there. McLaren leaves the door open on the inside. I could have gone for the move probably earlier, but I actually get him on the exit as he smashes into the wall thanks to going wide. So I've slot in ahead by this point, going through turn 3 of lap 2 now. So we're just going to keep an eye on the gap behind. Actually, look at that, 4 Australians at the top of the leaderboard. Go Australia. Don't have much else going for us, so I might as well take the little wins when we can get them. Anyway, actually it's usually the other way around. Usually the Japanese players are very quick. Obviously, you know, the rainy season here in Australia has got us very accustomed to wet weather driving. But as I've been talking there, we'll head up into the sort of, not really a chicane I suppose, but just have a look at the gap through here. See how much I gained through here. So I'm 3/10 there. On the exit of turn 10 there, I'm up to 7/10 basically, up to a second halfway through turn 11. Accelerate down the hill, 1.3 seconds ahead, and actually the McLaren's obviously made a massive mistake through there, probably sliding wide through turn 10, earning himself a penalty which he'll serve here going through these gates that I just passed through at full speed, obviously. So we'll go through the hairpin now. We've got a nice 3-second gap now between me and the McLaren behind, so it's actually looking fairly good here. I've got no cars around me, I've got no cars in front of me. I'm able to lap on my own, just like qualifying. And actually, we'll skip ahead to the end of lap 8, as there was really nothing that went on. Just have a look at the my lap times on the right hand side of the screen there. 2:16s, couple of 2:17s, very consistent. I'm able to keep quite consistent through here. Massive snap of oversteer through turn 10, traction control working overtime to try and keep me in control there. Probably that was exacerbated by tyre wear. Obviously this is race C, so we'll come down here. What have we come to a back marker now? 17th place. He is actually in last place. What is he driving? A Supra up ahead. He's way wide through here, trying to get onto the power. He just, oh, that is unfortunate, slightly into the wall. And I looked behind there, and it was at this point in the race where I looked behind and had no idea the McLaren, or what is it, not the McLaren, Audi behind, yeah, an Audi behind, had actually closed up the gap to me throughout my hot lapping, or cold lapping, I guess, it being wet. But he actually just gets into my slipstream down the final straight, and I wasn't going to push him into the wall. I wanted to kind of scare him into think I was going to push him into the wall, so, you know, it gave me a slight chance that he might back off and let me win, but he didn't fall for it, and I actually lose that position by 0.027 of a second on the final straight. Now, the Subaru is not great in a straight line, and it was that point I realised, you know, I really need a car with good top end. So I looked at the leaderboard, and Ford GT was at the top. So McLaren is probably faster in a straight line, but maybe isn't as good through the twisty section. So, you know, there's trade-offs here and there, as with everything in this game. So this was the very first lap I set with this car, once again going with traction control level 2, as I'd rather spend my time trying to get a decent lap in rather than spending my time reversing out of barriers. So we'll head down the straight to start my first lap here. I've got 6 minutes until the race starts, so I've got no pressure, no time pressure there. So we'll see how we go through this lap here. Now, the first thing I noticed is the top end of the Ford GT. I was actually taking note of the speed in the Subaru going up this hill, and it was about 10 kilometers an hour slower than this car going up the hill, about 261 the Subaru was doing, if I recall correctly. And already the Ford GT maxing out at 6th gear, nearly 280 kilometers an hour on its own, so in slipstream it would be quite a beast. Braking just after the 150 board here. We'll go through a lap a little bit, I suppose. 3rd gear through here. It wasn't really a good lap, to be honest. It wasn't that great. Really wide through turn 1. Turn 2, not as close to the apex as I would like either, on the power quite late. So there's obviously quite a bit of time in this lap, even though it is obviously quicker than my other one. That's why I'm showing you. Why would I show you a slower lap than my record? So yeah, we'll have a look through here. Going through the very long sweeping corners, turns 3 and 4. It's actually quite good through there, I suppose. Chicane now. I aim not to hit any walls, and we want to be flat out from the exit of turn 5 into 6. I think I grazed the wall there a little bit. That's not to worry though. We're still pointing in the correct direction. Little tap of the brakes as we go into the dry patch under that bridge. I actually get around turn 8 beautifully there. Judged to perfection. This is turn 9 now on the power, nice and early, using the entire width of the track available. And then going up the slip road towards turn 10, braking halfway between the 100 metre and the 50 metre board, so 75 metres. We actually hit the inside wall there, so turned in slightly early. Like I said, plenty of time still in this lap. We'll head down the hill towards the hairpin now. So, in the Subaru, I think we're braking just on the 200 metre board. No, in between, on the 150 metre board, basically. We would have been braking in the Subaru. Slightly earlier in this car, just because the brakes aren't as good and we're going a higher speed than the Subaru was. And this is where we unleash the power of the Ford GT, nice and gentle through that little kink on the exit of 12 there. We don't want to send the car into the barrier on the left hand side, as I had demonstrated at times throughout the week where I was completing these races. So we're heading down the hill now. There's pit entry, there's the finish line up ahead. It's going to be a 2:14.8, which is like 1.5 seconds quicker than what I could do in the Subaru. So, and it wasn't even a great lap either. So basically, you know, it was all gained in the straight, really, compared to the Subaru, where I was probably 10 to 15k slower throughout the entire length of the straight, whereas, you know, in this Ford GT here, I managed to beat my time immediately in my first lap, and that actually puts me in second place on the grid here. So when I get into second place, I like to try and just have a nice, you know, straight out battle with the guy in first place rather. So hopefully we get that same sort of event that occurs here. I want to have a nice race with this Wyvern guy, as really I hadn't really had a good race here throughout the entire week. So I think it was time to have a good race. So we'll head down the straight. The advantage of being in second place is you can get the slipstream of first place, and he doesn't have the slipstream of anyone, so you're able to make quite a good gain. And because the run down the straight is so long before turn 1, you can probably just get an overtake done, and that was essentially starting on pole. So basically on this track, starting in second is starting on pole, because you'll just slipstream past him outright before the corner. So on the nice brakes brakely is what I was about to say, on the brakes nicely into turn 1, meeting the apex beautifully, and onto the power nicely, and we actually already a second ahead of this guy. Actually, Wyvern down to 5th, just had a look on the leaderboard there, back up to 4th, he's obviously made a bit of an error into turn 1. I would imagine because he was going narrow, I imagine he would have slid into the outside wall, as he wasn't able to turn in quite as early as you need to, and of course the road isn't as grippy, or the tyres aren't as grippy onto the surface of the wet road, so yeah, that's why it's so easy to slide wide at turn 1. But basically we were 1.5 seconds behind by halfway through lap 1, and honestly, once again, it was just a nice lapping consistently, setting the fastest lap of the race in the final is 2:15.2. So I was setting 2:15s and 2:16s throughout the race there in this car, and that is all basically down to the straight. So the Subaru was only able to do 2:16s and 2:17s, and then as soon as we flick over to this car, I get a victory. So that really was to just show the importance of using the car at the top of the leaderboard. It's at the top for a reason. The guys can make it work. But that's going to be it for that combination. So yeah, moral of that story, I would take the advice and use the car at the top of the leaderboard. But we're going back to an old nemesis, Mount Panorama. You might think, home circuit for me, I'm going to go very well around here. I can assure you, I do not. It is not a great circuit for me, really. I love the track, love watching racing down here. As far as actually driving, on controller at least, not great. But I figured the best chance of having a video-worthy race was to start at the back and give us an opportunity to go past people making mistakes, which generally happens further down the field. Ideally, I am not one to partake in those mistakes, but it was at this point here where I was starting, I was like, I could very well be the one getting laughed at, especially if some of these other guys behind me are recording. But we'll see how we go. We started in 13th, of course. We didn't set a lap time at all, as I did want to start at the back. I think we did do a little bit of practice. Actually, McGann Trophy bins it on the final corner before lap 1 even starts, so you know, when you bin it on lap 0, you're not doing very well. Going through turn 1 now, McGann Regular is off the track, also goes out as he passes onto the racing line, so Renault is not the car you want to choose around here. Exhibit A and Exhibit B demonstrated quite aptly in front of me. Hopefully the Aston Martin doesn't get lumped into the same group as Renault around here. And on that note, the car I'm actually using is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Group 4. Hopefully we can make this machinery work as well. You see that massive bit of snap as we climbed the curb going through turn 2 of Bathurst there. We actually hit the inside wall through turn 4, the cutting as well, so not going well so far. Well, I guess we're up 2 positions, so it's going okay, but as far as genuine skill-based gains, not much to see here. So we'll just keep an eye on the Lamborghini up ahead. I slide into the wall going through turn 9, and then through the hump into turn 10, slam into the inside wall as well, so obviously not much practice is the culprit here. Someone goes into the back of me as we enter the Acer's Lamborghini across the escape road, going through turn 11 I suppose, gets a half-second penalty for that, and we close up nicely. Have a look through here. He carries a lot of speed through turn 17, but he ends up narrow for turn 18, and I'm able to perform a nice cut back there. So carrying the maximum amount of speed for individual corners is not necessarily the way to be fast. Oh, it's definitely not the way to be fast. You've got to think about sequences of corners. Another good example of that would be the sweeping S's in the second sector of Dragon Trail Seaside. So at this point here, we're in the slipstream of the Jaguar here. Hopefully we can make some gains up Mountain Straight, of course uphill, and I can't see, but I'm not sure whether that Jaguar is making any gains from the car in front of him. But nonetheless, we're not going to get a move done. Going up this straight at least, hopefully we can, make some gains throughout the rest of the lap there. Jaguar wasn't quite able to keep that very, very far inside line through turn 2, so he was up high and wider. Once again, I hit the inside wall there, and then that just leads to a mistake. And then, that's never a good thing. It allows the car behind to get alongside, coming up through Quarry, a Toyota 86 there. He's going to try to hang it around the outside of me, and it gets very awkward there. I can't quite comment, or I have no comment on whether there was contact, but going around the outside through this section, or honestly, passing through this section is not advised, no matter how big of a bin the people in front of you make. But you see, that little bit of fighting there, that was just allowed that Jaguar to pull out a bit of a gap as we began to go down the S's there. But we'll skip ahead to the end of the same lap, and really, I could play this and at the end of lap 1 side by side, and you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I could say spot the difference, and you go, what? Anyway, he gets a poor run out of turn 1 this time, and I'm not really sure why. I was just gaining so quickly. That gain you just saw there is an abnormally quick gain, even though he had a poor run. He must have been lifting off or something. I don't know. I didn't quite capture the replay. Yeah, I didn't look at the replay anyway. Might have saved it. Who knows? We'll see if we can stay ahead. Of course, up into 9th. So hopefully we can keep the position here. We'll just skip ahead to halfway down Conrod Straight. We're still in 9th place, but there's a Scirocco serving the penalty. His penalty, I guess. And then we make our way up into 8th. Into the braking zone to the chase. I just drop it, the right rear tyre onto the grass in the entry to the braking zone, and it just almost spins the car out, and I had to go across the grass there, so obviously that's just lack of practice and inexperience really. Scirocco does the same thing, but being front wheel drive, that car didn't quite suffer the same fate as me, and wasn't quite able to lose the position to me, and ultimately I do finish in 8th, but I guess, if that Scirocco didn't even have the penalty, I would have finished in 9th anyway, so it's not too bad, I suppose. Not a great first race. Where did I start? 13th, only gained 4 positions, so that's not very good, not exactly what you want to see when you start at the back. But for this next race here, I obviously did set a qualifying time, and it actually put me on pole position at 2 minutes 13.5, so a couple of seconds off the top pace, but enough for pole here. So hopefully we can just stay in first. I don't need to be a hero and get a 10-second gap and Scott McLaughlin the mountain section. I don't need to do any of that. I just need to do what I know, keep the cars behind, easy to defend through sector 2 and 3, hard to defend through 1 and 4, but hopefully we can, hopefully Aston Martin has good top end. I haven't really been in position to comment on that at this stage here, so we're just going to do what we know. Nice inside camber through turn 2. It's actually cool to look on the radar when you've got a car right behind you, because you can see where they gain and lose, and that particular example there, I was able to get onto the power nice and smoothly, keep the car under control through turn 2, and I just gained a couple of tenths on Hoyen going through, or on the exit of turn 2 precisely. So going through the mountain section now, flat out through turns 5 and 6, I think it is, or 6 and 7, something like that, and then a little bit of a lift going through turn 9, and then turn 10, a little tap of the brakes as we go over the crest, as you'll end up flying into McPhillamy Park. on the outside there, and then trail brake down the hill. Gentle braking as we turn, and then as the car straightens up to go to the next sort of turn in the S, full brakes and then release the brakes slightly. Very complicated and requires practice, and I do know how to do that. I just can't quite piece together a quick lap in qualifying or in the race, or translate that into any sort of desirable position at the top of the field. But we were able to keep first place on this lap without any large bins, large dumpsters. Hopefully bin day doesn't arrive shortly and render my race a complete disaster. But coming down the straight, the Aston Martin holds its own actually, 6/10 behind that Nissan behind was, and he's now 4.5 by the end of the straight. So I was able to defend that position. What is he? 3/10 behind. So say he was maybe 4/10 behind me, I could probably, that might be the limit of me defending that position. Of course, the closer they are, the stronger their slipstream is. And I actually make a mistake through turn 23. I can't quite explain what I did. I must have just hit the brakes too late, but I felt as though I was going an appropriate speed on corner entry, and then the car just understeered really wide. So I'm not really sure why that happened, but it did. So now Hoyen has actually gotten a chance to go ahead, but I've got 2 laps now, and at this point I do remember I was feeling okay with this combination now. My competitors weren't tremendously overmatched. By that I mean they weren't, way faster than me. They were fairly evenly paced, and this guy, I think, he might even be slightly quicker than me, but in terms of practice level, in terms of skill, he might be quite similar to me at the time of recording anyway. And on the inside of turn 4 there's like a sort of a gutter, I guess it is. On the outside of the white lines lining the track sort of either falls away into the wall or, curves up into the wall. And it curves up into the wall on the inside of the cutting there, and it just sort of kicked the back end out a little bit. But we managed to keep it under the control. 1.1 seconds. We've actually gained a few tenths coming through the start of this lap. It was like 1.3 at the start. It's almost, there we go, under 1 second now as we head down the dipper. But it just extends out to 1.3 as he obviously gets a better exit than me on the exit of the dipper. Maybe the Nissan GTR has better traction going downhill or has better grip, is a little bit more planted. It is quite a bulky car, so the weight of that might keep it stuck to the road a little bit more, better than my sort of light and nimble Aston Martin here. But we'll head down the straight for the second time. Hopefully we don't bin it, obviously. We've actually set purple lap there, so that's always good. And then coming into the chase, braking just after the 150 meter board. You can brake on your own, you can brake after the 150 meter board, but you don't want to, end up sailing deep. And actually, that Nissan there goes really wide going through turn 22, so yeah, end up getting that position back. So essentially this is how lap 2 should have started rather, with me ahead and the guy behind. So essentially lap 2 was a waste of time, because you could cut out lap 2 of this and it would essentially look exactly as it is now. So let's go through a quick lap of Bathurst now. Turn 1, we've already passed it, so rewind if you want to have a look at that. We'll head up Mountain Straight. This is the straight between turn 1 and 2 now, heading up towards turn 2, Griffin's Bend, braking just after the 100 meter board. Keep it nice and close to the inside and get on the power really early. Third gear through there, climb the curb on the exit, don't touch the wall obviously, and then turning into the cutting turns 3 and 4, lifting off through turn 3, braking just on the exit of turn 3, and then just rolling it into turn 4. You can go way smooth through there. This is turn 5, flat out, going uphill, so some cars might tend to oversteer, Group 4 not so much. Turning into turn 6 now, flat out through here, climb the curbs, use the curbs, get close to the wall, and then we've got the mountain section now. Turn 7, 8, and then this is turn 9 here. Climb the curb a little bit. You can, I think some cars can go flat out in Group 4. This is turn 10, lift and brake slightly going over the crest and the entries. You don't want to end up in the grass, and then downhill to the S's, braking just under that sort of Armco sign there, and then we just ride, absolutely pummel the turn 12 curb, and then slow down into second gear for the dipper, turn 14. Then we're accelerating all the way down to turn 17, where we lift for turn 17, and then slide it and sort of roll it into turn 18, and then on the power nice and early. So you actually want to be further over to the right hand side on the entry to turn 18, further over than I was, so you can get a nice sort of slingshot using that sort of inside camber is more of a downhill to get your power. Very kind of complicated to explain, but if you've driven it and you've done it, you can kind of, I'm pretty sure you would know what I mean. Chase, now flat out through here, used a little bit of extra tarmac on the entry, braking just after the 150 metre board, and it actually rolls us into the corner nicely. Climb the curb there, it actually sort of gets us a bit of rotation as it unsettles the car there. Flat out through turn 22, down towards final corner, turn 23, Murray's corner, braking just on as the tree disappears from the right hand side of the screen. A little bit deep there, but that's not to worry. A little bit more trail braking, you've got that sorted. But that is how we defended our position going at the end of this race. We've actually set ourselves a 2:13.9, which is only a few tenths off my qualifying time, so that was an alright race actually. I was happy with that. I did make a mistake, but so did the other guy, so you know, we were fairly even there, but it did bring us a victory. So we've had a couple of victories in this video, which is more than what I can say for most of my others. If you'd like to check that out, please do, I would like you to. And if you want to be notified of any new ones, do hit subscribe, because I will upload whenever I feel like it. And if you like this video, do hit that like button as well. That always helps me out. But that's going to be the end of this one today. I do hope you enjoyed. Thank you for making it to the end. But that's going to be it from the video today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.